back to 1000 Proof, a marketing podcast where we discuss various topics. Today's topic is branding and branding consistency and why it's important. I'm Madison. I'm the head of marketing for 1000 Lumens. I also work in social media management.
I'm Zach. I'm one of the founders and the head of operation and growth. So we're back at Daisy Lounge in Stevens Point, and once again, the beautiful Guild building. And today, since we're doing branding, I thought we would make a Bramble. So we've got gin in here, lemon juice, blueberry maple syrup, a little bit of seltzer, mint.
Yeah, it's delicious. So to kind of start off, we're going to talk about what exactly branding is. So branding is not just your logo, the colors you use. It's the way you make people feel, your voice, your tone, your messaging, everything that just encompasses the way people recognize and remember you. So you're a business owner. You own 2 businesses. How did you approach branding, specifically with 1000 Lumens, as you are a founder?
Yeah, well, 1000 Lumens, we kind of tripped and fell into it. So we had a logo first, and because we just wanted to get started. One of the things that we quickly learned is that we needed to take ourselves a little bit more seriously. And what really took us to the whole level was when we really found out we needed brand colors, we need a new logo that represents who we are, and we need a message behind it that helps tell people who we are, why we do it, how we can help them. And it's kind of like coming up with a Bible of who you are or how you can present yourself outward. So one of the biggest things, even at the bar, is I'm a firm believer that your brand and how you talk about your brand should also reflect the experience that you're going to provide. Because there is a lot of times where people will throw out like, oh, I want to put this cool logo out there. And then when you meet them and you talk to them, it doesn't really feel right.
So recently I've helped a nonprofit kind of kickstart, and they have asked me to come on and help them with some of their marketing and kind of what we really got down to with the branding, which is what we really wanted to start off with once we got everything done, paperwork and all of that filled out and we want to launch. We wanted to come up with a logo that felt right. So for this nonprofit, it's a nonprofit that works with pairing adults with disabilities with people in the community and bringing everyone together with events, fun things to do, people just hanging out and having a good time, and just really creating a sense of belonging. And so with this nonprofit, which hasn't launched yet, so I won't talk too much about it, we kind of wanted to talk about exactly what the values were, what she wanted people to feel. And a lot of the words that came to mind were joy, friendship, belonging, and equity. And so with this, we looked into some symbolism with these words, joy and friendship. One thing that came to mind immediately was a yellow rose, because yellow roses represent friendship. So we knew we kind of wanted to incorporate these colors and these symbols within the logo and the branding of the company. So we put together a couple options. We're using yellow, but we also wanted something that was neutral and inviting to everyone, not something that's hyper feminine, because there is another company in the area very similar to what we're doing with this nonprofit, and they found that they ran into some issues with men not necessarily being drawn to it or feeling like they're excluded because it was a daisy with a lot of yellow and bright feminine colors. So with this in mind, we knew we wanted to really emphasize joy, we wanted to emphasize belonging. We kind of narrowed it down, and they decided, we want people in the logo as well, because people might look at a singular yellow rose and go, well, what is this, a floral shop? So the logo really tells a story, but you don't want it to be too obvious, because then people don't really have to search for what you do or look more into it. It's kind of like, oh, maybe I'm not interested. It's more of a draw-in. So how did you work with finding the logos for Daisy Lounge and 1000 Lumens?
Yeah, so when we took it seriously, we actually, for Lumens, when we did our rebrand, we worked with Leslie Worth. She had a small studio in town here called Maybird, and we really liked her style. She did the Main Grain Bakery rebrand, which I really, really liked. We liked how clean it was and how it just, when you go to Main Grain Bakery, for example, the space and the logo and everything just makes sense, especially when you know Sarah Jo is an owner. So one of the things that we really learned is she had a lot of exploration exercises for us. So we did mood boards. We talked about Jade and I as individuals, what really unified us, what were some shared wants and needs. And then really what it came down with is we did a lot of work on finding those keywords and those values that directly came through and how we wanted the audience to feel. Like, what are some strengths that we have and how can we work that into our branding? So she presented us with a bunch of stuff, and we do have 2 different logos, but the primary one that we like, what we liked about it is one of the things that differentiates us is that we bring a warmth to set in working with us. So advertising, marketing, filming, it's intimidating. Like it can be really, really scary. And one of the things that we just told all the time, oh, you guys are really fun, and I like how comfortable we are on set. So when we looked at all the other logos, they were either really like gimmicky and bright and like bubbly or very corporate. And so we wanted something that was just classic, timeless, really inspired by like old school, like Patagonia style stuff. And it's just warmth. Like it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with 1,000 lumens or marketing, but it shows a little bit of landscape, which we, ties into the cinematography of what we do. But really it just, you like look at it like, yeah, this is warm. This is inviting. I like it. So that was, I guess, the long story about lumens, how that came to be. And Daisy, we just looked at a bunch of different brands that we enjoy that were like timeless. We had a lot of old world like restaurants and hotels and ocean liners. I'm a big Titanic nerd, so we looked at a lot of that in terms of like colors. Again, we wanted something very timeless, and since both brands are extensions of me, you'll notice that both have very similar or shared colors or similar tones, but I think part of that is because it's really calming, warming, etc. That's what we want to, that's what binds both of them together.
Yeah. And that's what's important, is evoking the emotion and just like really drawing people in, because that's how they're going to remember you and recognize you. And that kind of goes into why staying consistent with your branding is really important. So when it comes to colors, it comes to fonts, it comes to the way you speak, the way you write captions on social media, the wording of your advertisements, all of that ties into branding and how people are going to think about you. So with that in mind, I want to just kind of talk about maybe some of the repercussions if you don't stay consistent with your branding, specifically with your marketing materials. So even on social media, photos are great, but you want something that kind of ties in your branding to make people recognize, hey, this is a Daisy post. Hey, this is a Target post, things like that. Target uses a lot of red and white. That's their basic colors. And so if you go to their social media or you go to any of their marketing, it's all red and white and it's all very consistent. And obviously Target's kind of a powerhouse, so that may not be the best example, but
No, I mean, consistency is key. You're right. And I think one of the things it does is it builds authority and it builds trust. You know immediately that whatever it is, it's a material that it is coming from you.
it just really drives it in.
Yeah.
It drives it in, and then the amount of times people will see your content or your marketing materials, they see navy every single time they see a post from you, they see this font every single time they see a post from you, and they can recognize the language. That in their mind really helps you with brand recognition, brand awareness, and then ultimately building a more loyal fan base. They'll be able to recognize you. Say you're out and about walking on the street and you see navy and you're like, oh, that's Daisy Navy, And that's great because that also helps increase word of mouth, which is the most powerful marketing tool. So I think that that's really important. And kind of going into that, I want to kind of talk about how we do offer a messaging workshop for people who might struggle with finding these keywords. Why would I, how do I feel about this company? What do I want it to do? Sometimes you get stuck and you don't really know where to go, especially if you're starting a brand or you're starting, a brand extension, anything of that sort. It can be really difficult to sit there and go, what do I want this to be? Because you want it to be perfect, but to get to that point, you kind of have to really go through the weeds and figure out what it is you want your company to evoke, what you want it to stand for, the values you want to emphasize, the way you want the world to view your brand or your company. So going into that, I think we should talk a little bit more about the brand messaging workshop that we do offer.
Yeah. So branding overall is great, like we just talked about, and there's so much science behind the visuals aspect of it that talk to the graphic designer. We are not the ones to help with that. It's fascinating. But that same level of, it may not be as exciting as a new logo, but it's just as important. And one of the cool things is all that should tie together. So those keywords, like we said, from our visual language, it matches what our actual language is. So finding those 5 keywords that kind of act as filters is going to be a really big, like, key part to it. And then it's really breaking it out into what we call, as loosely based off Donald Miller's, like, StoryBrand, just 7 core pieces of a message which relates to a story. So we have your audience. So who are you talking to? We need to know what the problem is that they have. We need to know how we are the people who are going to help them and why. So what's our authority behind it, and also show that we understand it. So we're guiding, right? As brands, we are not the heroes. We are guiding the customer, who is the hero, through this. We need to give them a plan. We need to show them what success looks like, and we need to show them what failure might look like if they don't work with us. And then we also just need to call them to action to do it. So ultimately what we go through is we work with your company to really find the core of who you are, what you do, why you do it, and put it in a framework that you can deploy and use consistently. Those keywords help define the tone. And so then when you're looking at marketing collateral, you have this Bible then that you can go back to for your language, and it keeps it consistent again. So it's really important to make sure that you're saying the same thing over and over and over again. So sometimes, as like an English major, I know, like, oh, we don't want to be too repetitive. In marketing, you do. A, because not everyone's going to see a post like the first time you post it. And second, repetition is key to building brand equity. That's the same with the visual language. And why is brand equity important? Because it really makes you resistant to change. Like, it makes people say yes quicker. It gives you that loyalty that you mentioned, right? So the higher your brand equity, the more likely you are to withstand a recession, and the more likely you are to get more sales or easier, right? And since we rebranded at 1,000 Lumens and really fine-tuned our language, which granted, it's always evolving. It's something you always want to like audit to make sure it's catching up with you. Once we fine-tune that, we've seen quicker upticks on everything. Like, people just know who we are more. They recognize our posts more, they pay attention to those posts, and that builds trust. It builds authority in that space, and it's before we even talk to them.
Yeah. And really kind of going back to your mission and values in everything you do when you make decisions, especially big marketing decisions. Does this reflect our value, and does this reflect our mission? And with that, we will end this episode off by saying, if you don't have a mission statement yet, or you don't have values, it's really important to sit down and kind of pound that out, because it does really help guide your branding. And it's important to stay consistent. So I have a challenge for you. If you do not yet post with consistent branding, colors, fonts, I think it's really important that you try that out, maybe for as long as a quarter even, and kind of see how that goes with recognizability within the community or within your audience. So
Absolutely. It can be intimidating, but don't be afraid to just kind of start. And if you're feeling lost, like messaging, we can help out with our workshops or starter kit. If you're looking for visuals, there's so many graphic designers out there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of resources out there, but you just got to do it.
And that concludes today's episode.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bramble on.